So I couldn't help but notice that after the conclusion of WrestleMania 31, if all things go according to WWE's plan, 2 out of 3 former Shield members will have wrestled Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins had a match with Brock Lesnar and John Cena at the Royal Rumble. And Roman Reigns is, of course, going to look really, really strong against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31. That leaves one guy, one man who is in the Shield who has not wrestled Brock Lesnar, who may never wrestle Brock Lesnar. And that is Dean Ambrose. Now, Dean Ambrose is clearly the most underutilized, underbooked former member of the Shield. I know this, you know this. Anyone who has paid attention could see that Dean Ambrose is not being utilized to the extent that Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns is. Now, you could say what you want about Roman Reigns, whether he deserves that or not. But let's just focus on Dean Ambrose here for a moment. Now, how could you book Dean Ambrose more effectively? Well, I have some ideas. Now, Dean Ambrose is a pretty good babyface, isn't he? He's pretty good. He's over, he's exciting, he's combustible, he's energetic, he's crazy, right? That's his thing, he's crazy. But how much do we really need Dean Ambrose as a babyface right now? Well, I would contend that we don't need him right now as a babyface. In fact, I think we need him as a heel because we have quite a few top babyfaces that are causing Dean Ambrose to be in the position that he is right now, which is the mid-card. I mean, ahead of him, you have, of course, Roman Reigns, you have John Cena, you have Daniel Bryan, and you have Randy Orton. And that doesn't even include all of the other mid-card babyfaces, such as Ryback, Eric Rowan, and Dolph Ziggler. Now, that doesn't mean that Dean Ambrose isn't doing well for himself. He's doing decently. He's not drowning. He's just being booked very, very poorly. And my feeling is that he should turn heel. I know people don't like that idea off the bat. It sounds like just a typical smart solution. Don't like it, turn him heel. But really, I think there could be some value in turning Dean Ambrose heel, especially because right now, the gimmick that he has, while it's exciting, it's over, it's crazy, yeah, but is it main event material? And I don't think it is. I think his attire is... It's unique, but it's not credible. It doesn't give you a big feel behind this guy. He's wearing jeans, he's wearing a wife beater, a t-shirt, whatever it is he wears, and he looks like people have said he looks like a garbage worker, like a construction worker, just an average guy you see off the streets, and that's not necessarily the best way you wanna look if you're a pro wrestler and a WWE superstar. You want to look like a larger-than-life character, not someone that anyone can see in Home Depot. Now, I think, like I said, his current gimmick is fine for a mid-card guy. It works. It's nothing wrong with it. It's just, will it suffice for the main event? And I don't think it will. Now, I want to go back to his feud with Bray Wyatt, which ended. I don't know if you could salvage this idea, but I just want to throw it out there. I wrote about this on Reddit a while ago, right before the feud ended with Wyatt, and I still think it's a good idea, and I want to throw it out there. Now, this is how I would book Dean Ambrose if I had control of the booking during the relevant time period, which was a few months ago. But I think, like I said, I think it could still be salvaged. Now, let me talk about what I mean. Dean Ambrose, ever since he left the Shield, has been his own worst enemy. He's been losing matches because of mistakes, because of errors that he makes due to his violent and crazy nature. His erratic behavior causes him to make these mistakes. During his match with Wyatt at what was it? Was it Hell in a Cell? No, it wasn't Hell in a Cell. It was, man, I don't even remember what pay-per-view it was, but it was the main event, when he was in the main event with Wyatt. I think it was TLC. It was TLC, wasn't it? He was in the main event with Wyatt at TLC, and he blew the television out when he went to go slam it into Wyatt. Just blew out. Now, I know people didn't like that finish, but it made sense. This guy, he had Wyatt beat, but he's crazy, he's out of control, and he just had to get that last attack in, and it cost him the match. Now, other behaviors that Dean has exhibited have cost him things. I mean, he's been cost a match against Wade Barrett recently when he was going too hard, which didn't make any sense. But let's just roll with it. Dean Ambrose is just his own worst enemy, and he can't win matches because he is not in control of himself. Now, he's kind of like Randy Orton, except Randy Orton, when he was crazy, he still got things done. Dean Ambrose is like the kind of guy who he needs structure, he needs order, he needs direction. And previously, before his single run, that came from the Shield. Now, Seth Rollins made this claim that Dean Ambrose without him is just someone who was going to wind up in a ditch. And I think that's a very interesting aspect of Dean's character, that he needs some direction, he needs some order, he needs some motivation. When he's just a loose cannon like this, he can't succeed. He just costs himself everything. Now, this goes back to Bray Wyatt, who was saying something very similar during his feud with Dean Ambrose, that he knows Dean, and he's very much like Dean, and he wants to rule the world, quote-unquote, with Dean Ambrose. And I think that could have been something. I think, and this is how I would have booked it, that you should have had Ambrose and Wyatt take each other to the limit in all of these crazy gimmick matches, and they should have gotten equal wins over each other, which they kind of did. Wyatt got 2 wins, I think. Dean got 1 win on Tribute to the Troops, which some would say is non-canon, but still a televised win. And I think it should have been like that, only it should have ended differently. It should have ended not with them just going their separate ways and never really talking about it, and there being no consequences whatsoever. I mean, Dean Ambrose just walked away from that feud with nothing changed in him. He collided with Wyatt, and he continued on as if he had never encountered Bray Wyatt at all. Now, I would change this to be Dean Ambrose gets his ass kicked, and he kicks Wyatt's ass to such a degree that they gain a mutual respect, and Dean says, yes, I understand this now. I am going to join forces with Bray Wyatt, and I am going to become what I can become. And I wouldn't have Dean Ambrose be like another generic member of the Wyatt family. I wouldn't give him a hillbilly gimmick. I wouldn't give him a tracksuit. I wouldn't really do any of that. What I would do is make his relationship with Bray Wyatt similar to the relationship between the two main characters in P.T. Anderson's film The Master. Now, if anyone has seen that film, it's basically the story of a cult leader who encounters this World War II veteran who is suffering from extreme PTSD, incredibly violent guy, incredibly out of control guy, much like Dean Ambrose, and this cult leader reins him in. He gives him structure, or at least he tries to. And this character, Freddy, he is portrayed as something of an attack dog. And this is kind of the relationship I envision Dean Ambrose having with Bray Wyatt, where Bray Wyatt has this new attack dog in Dean Ambrose, and Dean Ambrose is vicious, and he's rabid, and he's crazy, but he has a direction, he has a momentum, he has a trajectory. Now, as for Dean Ambrose's appearance, I think his current attire is not doing him any favors. I mean, as I say, it's cool and all, but it's very mid-cardy. It reminds me of Tommy Dreamer, it reminds me of the Sandman, it reminds me of these kind of ECW guys who were just mid-card guys, at least in WWE, and they didn't really break out of the mid-card. So I would change Dean Ambrose's attire. I would put him back in trunks. And I don't think he looks bad in trunks. People seem to be afraid to put the Shield in trunks. They think they'll just become another guy on the roster. Well, look, having trunks doesn't make you another guy on the roster. The Shield stand out in their own right. They can have trunks. It'll all be okay. I would put Dean Ambrose in trunks, and I would make him Wyatt's attack dog. Now, Dean Ambrose used to wear this vest, and he still sometimes wears it. It's this really rugged, edgy, ragged-looking vest. And he'd wear it on NXT or FCW, and he sometimes wears it today, but if he does, he usually wears it over his t-shirt. Now, when he used to wear this over his bare chest, he really looked like a violent man, a sick, twisted, disgusting man. And this is sort of the aspect of Dean's personality that I would want to play up in the main event. Dean Ambrose is not a competitor. He is not he's not a pro wrestler. He is a violent man who is here in the WWE to be a violent man. And it's not the same as Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is just a violent human being in the sense that he is an alpha male who wants to dominate and destroy people's bodies. But Dean Ambrose is more perverse than this, I think. Dean Ambrose doesn't just want to beat you up. He wants to fuck with your mind. He wants to mess with your head. He wants to intimidate and destroy you internally. And I think this complements very well with Bray Wyatt, who is much a similar character. Bray Wyatt isn't a competitor. He's not here to win titles. He's here to be the evil menace that he believes himself to be. And I think Dean Ambrose would do well to tag with Wyatt. Now, I don't think it wouldn't be, neither of them would be in the main event, although I could see either of them being in the main event under these circumstances. But it would be more of a two-man power trip thing where you would have these two semi-main event guys destroying everyone in their path. Now, Dean Ambrose, Wyatt go on this rampage where they're just unbeatable. You have Wyatt's direction, you have Dean's viciousness, and you have this pair who just destroy everything in their path. And I think this would make Dean Ambrose the heel he really needs to be right now. It would set him apart from Seth Rollins, who is a more humane individual. And I know Seth Rollins, he threatened to kill Edge, but I mean humane in the sense that he has a human personality. He's kind of a douchebag. He wears the suits, whatever. Dean Ambrose, on the other hand, more of a vicious, violent animal kind of human being, and I think that would really set him apart. And if you really needed to, you could make him more of a tweener. You could have him go after heels and babyfaces equally. In fact, I think it would be very good for Bray Wyatt to set himself apart as a tweener, as someone who goes after the authority, because Bray Wyatt does talk about dismantling power structures. And Dean Ambrose would be a very interesting tool in that, especially since he, in the Shield, made it known that he was in it for justice. Now, we don't really know what that meant. It was kind of a vague notion that the Shield outlined, but they had this idea that they weren't satisfied with the state of the WWE, that they didn't like how it had become a popularity contest, and that unjust situations had propelled certain individuals into the main event. And you could kind of bring that back. You could kind of have Dean Ambrose say, well, look, I'm still in it for justice. I've just found what real justice is, and he has found that in Bray Wyatt. Now, he doesn't need to be this worshiper of Bray Wyatt, this devoted follower. He just needs to be, well, look, I respect this guy. I've kicked this guy's ass. This guy's kicked my ass, and now we are a duo, and now we're going to do things together. And even though I don't understand what the hell he's going on about half the time, I do know that this guy, he has some intellect, he has some ability to lead, he has some understanding of the climate of WWE, and he knows what it takes for us to dominate and control the WWE just like the Shield did. And I think that's enough for Dean Ambrose to ally himself with Bray Wyatt, become this attack dog, this animalistic menace type character. And this, I admit, is still a mid-card gimmick. It's not a main event gimmick, but it's certainly more than the current one that he has now, which is, oh, Dean Ambrose is crazy. He does crazy things. He gets himself into all sorts of trouble. And to me, that's a mid-card gimmick. What I'm proposing is more of an upper mid-card main event, semi-main event type gimmick, where you have him in tag matches with main event stars and so on. Kind of like the Shield was, only this would be a duo instead of a trio. So this is sort of my idea on how I would book Dean Ambrose. I think WWE is doing a terrible job right now of making Dean Ambrose stick out. They're doing not such a bad a job. They give him promo time, they give him mic time, they give him decent feuds, but not nearly on the same level of what they've done for Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, who have both faced Brock Lesnar or will face Brock Lesnar by the time WrestleMania 31 is over. And that should give you a clue about where Dean stands relative to these other two who are in feuds with one of the biggest stars in the company, which is Brock Lesnar. And something else, they've both been in feuds with John Cena. Dean Ambrose has not. Dean Ambrose has only been in feuds since breaking out from the Shield with Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, and now Bad News Barrett, which is certainly a step down from the other two. So this is how I would do it. I would like to hear what you guys think about my proposal. I don't think this will happen, of course. I think WWE will do what it does. And I don't have no hope for Dean Ambrose. I think WWE clearly likes Ambrose. I think Triple H likes him a lot. I think Vince likes him a lot, which is a good thing. And I think when Dean's time comes, he will be at the top. And I think his role at the top will be as a heel. But I don't think that time is now. There are too many other babyfaces and heels in his way. And he can do well in the mid-card, in the upper mid-card, but he needs to be a distinguished member of the roster. He needs to be the type of guy that you can't miss, that you have to pay attention to, that is clearly on the rise. And right now I think he's floundering a bit, and I think my proposal would put him on somewhat of a better track as far as his position in the WWE goes. So let me know what you think, and I'll be back for more.